Watch me record this podcast on clearing the mechanism. Hopefully I can talk this far away from the mic and it's still sound quality. Sound quality? It sounds quality. But yeah, so I got my thing open here. We're going to just start right from the top, clearing the mechanism. I got to record a pre-roll. So you guys, unfortunately, are going to listen to that as well. Do I have notes? Yeah, there's a few things I need to say in the pre-roll. So bear with me. And if you want, you can fast forward to when we actually get into the episode. Okay, here we go. What is going on, guys? Robby Rowland here. Welcome to another episode of the Robby Row Show podcast. If you are wondering, yes, I will eventually bring another guest on the show and do an actual podcast interview. It's been tough. For most of you guys, you know that I am currently playing in my season, and it's tough to just kind of coordinate with other people to hop on a call and record an interview because the schedule is kind of unpredictable, especially right now, to be honest. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm just going to say it because there's a mic in my face. There's a mic in my face. I'm actually on the self-quarantine thing right now because I was around somebody that tested positive for the coronavirus. So I was supposed to start on the 20th of August. And that didn't happen, and now I'm kind of just waiting. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing right now, to be completely honest with you guys. I'm told that I'm supposed to wait and get a test, but when I went online to get the test at the urgent care, as I know you guys are just dying to know, they're all full and they're all booked, and I'm constantly refreshing this web page to determine when I can get this testing thing done. But that's besides the point. You are listening to this podcast because today is going to be absolutely fantastic. We're going to be talking about clearing the mechanism, and I don't know if I'm copyright infringement because that's not my quote. That's Kevin Costner's of For the Love of the Game. Shout out to him. But I think everyone that throws a baseball knows exactly what clearing the mechanism is. But in regards to actually obtaining the clear of the mechanism mentality, it's a completely different thing. So what I'm going to do in this episode is kind of talk on that and talk on a few different points that I have personally utilized, and then where I see a lot of people kind of go wrong. I guess there's not really a wrong approach, right? But maybe a breakdown of the actual clearing the mechanism. I'm going to speak a little bit from my nerdy side, knowing what I know from the brain perspective, and how that kind of interacts with, when we are performing. And we're going to dive all into it. I apologize if anyone out there listening is actually an expert in neurology and I say something that's incorrect. I would love for you guys to reach out and talk more on that. With that being said, contact robbyrow@gmail.com. That's my email address. I looked, and by looked I mean glanced at my Instagram DMs, and I couldn't believe how many people are messaging me right now, and I feel bad because I don't answer those. So if you're somebody listening to this podcast that would love to get a hold of me or ask a question or something, shoot me that email. I'll definitely get to that. I'm actually at an all-time low right now of 17 in my inbox. Why are we talking about this? This has nothing to do with the podcast. I apologize. One last thing. Two more things of the pre-roll, then we'll dive right into it. First thing, guys, new ebook. It is out. The ebook is Throwing Mechanics ebook. I want to be crystal clear. It's a Throwing Mechanics ebook, meaning it's a Throwing Mechanics ebook, meaning it's the mechanics of the throw with the arms, limbs, or the hands and the arms. It's not, there's very little to do about the lower body. I'm going to produce an ebook eventually on the full mechanics, the full pitching mechanics. I already have the name. I already have it all out. It's just going to take a lot of time, and I don't know if I want to do it while I'm playing. But be on the lookout for that. That's probably going to be coming within the next 3 to 733 months. But the Throwing Mechanics ebook is now live. As most of you know, I'm extremely biased in terms of hand path, arm action, efficiency, connection, all of that stuff. So in this ebook, I break it all down. And I get tons of questions on the hand path stuff and the arm action stuff because I'm personally attached to it, knowing that I went from throwing 85 miles an hour and being released to then throwing 95 miles an hour, being invited to the fall league, advancing 3 levels and being invited to the big league camp that following year. So I am personally very biased. I will always say that. But the biggest point that I want to make when I talk about that stuff is like, when I was going through that whole change of like my arm action, there was never thoughts in my mind of changing anything with the lower body. And the lower body just became more efficient as I worked towards optimizing my hand path and arm action. That's why I'm such a passionate believer in that, because I think it simplifies a lot of the potential over complexities of like lower body mechanics and stuff like that. I produced this whole ebook. It's very simple. There's a few breakdowns. There's a few mechanical screenings. We talk all about like the actual process of obtaining that, and there's dozens of drill progressions, dozens of throw variations, and it's basically just everything that I have on it, everything that I've done, everything that I do with like my in-person clients. It's in the ebook. It's $25. Be sure to go check it out. therobbyrowshow.com/ebooks will then take you to my ebooks page. You'll see 5 options for ebooks, and then you'll see the throwing mechanics ebook option on there as well. Now, last thing, gotta say, sponsor of the Robby Rowland Show podcast, season 6, episode 6, Clearing the Mechanism, is no other than Oats Specialties. They've been a sponsor, I think, ever since season 2, maybe. But bell clubs, plyo balls, weighted balls, throwing sock, plyo mat, shoulder tube, you name it, they got it. I love their company, like the people, the products, it's fantastic. They actually just sent me the new Max Grip plyo balls, and I will say that it's a freaking load of a difference. It's fantastic. And I've actually today, probably since I think I have to quarantine in my room, I'm going to throw with the throwing sock. If you want, I can get you a discount. Robby 10, it's case sensitive. So capital R OBBY 10. Use that to get 10% off your order. And I also have a ton of product reviews on there. You can go check out on my website, therobbyrowshow.com. So that will do it from the pre-roll. Sorry if that took longer than I thought. Whoa, longer than you thought, but we're here at the 7-minute and 30-second mark. If you want, you can actually watch this episode on YouTube, because I've set up a camera. How you guys doing over there? Because why not? You got the camera. I get to look at myself, and I get to utilize a new lens. So there's that. Anyways, okay, diving in, clearing the mechanism. Well, what the heck does that mean? What is it? What is clearing the mechanism? Popular quote, for the love of the game. If that's not in your top 10 sports movies of all time, you can actually leave. Kevin Costner says it in the beginning of his outing, right, of that perfect game, and he says, clear the mechanism. And then all of a sudden, the noisiest Yankee Stadium of all time becomes very quiet, and it's just him, and he's present. Okay, so I'm going to break this down from my point of view, right? Like, this isn't me saying, like, this is right or wrong. I'm just saying, as a performer, as an athlete, this is what I got on it. Oftentimes called the zone, right? Oh, he's in the zone. Okay, everyone knows like that is a actual thing in sports, but the whole obtaining it is a whole nother thing. If you guys have been following me for a while and know that I nerd out on the state of mind of flow, The Rise of Superman is a great book, by the way. Check that out, The Rise of Superman. I listened to the audiobook, and then I lost the audiobook, and now it was a CD. Dang it. Sorry, guys. ADD. Anyways, it's a book all on like action adventure sports and how you have to obtain like the flow state, which is a state of mind in which it's action, not thought. And that is like the zone, right? Where you're not relying on your thoughts per se, but it's just actions and it's breath and it's there's no sense of time. It's just flow. And I could not be more of a nerd on that concept, because how much does that apply to like performing in sports, right? Because we're often dealt with anxieties of performance. If we don't perform well, we then are guarded towards negativity, meaning, our friends won't like me, or our friends won't like us. Our peers are going to look at us differently. Like the fans aren't going to like us. And then, I think as human beings, we're wired to be liked, right? People pleasers, a lot of us are, I suppose. And if that's not happening due to bad performance, then that's also a kind of conscious thought to then avoid that, right? So clearing the mechanism is a process in which you take all of the external noise, right? And there's a lot of external noise. And shoot, there's a lot of internal noise as well, right? And you just quiet it, right? You quiet that, and then it's constant, and then it's just a process of breathing, your breath, and the task at hand. And the task at hand, I'm going to speak specifically from the pitcher's point of view because your boy is a pitcher, aka athlete. So the task at hand is to get the guy that's standing in the box out, right? Obviously, the task changes if you're trying to, get a strikeout or, induce a double play, whatever, but the task is to get him out. So that is the most important piece. Now, what happens throughout the process, say you're facing one hitter, okay? Again, I'm going to speak from the pitcher's point of view, but if you're an athlete listening to this, you can probably shift that and make it more appealing to your position or maybe your son's position, whatever. So again, you're out there. And when you're out there in the moment, there's multiple factors that kind of are at play. The first factor is your brain is constantly monitoring and gaining information, I would say. Again, if my terminology is off when I'm talking about the brain, I apologize. I try to sound smart sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't come out great. The brain is constantly monitoring threats in the past and the future, right? So we're wired to be in essentially 3 different moments of time at once, where it's weighing or gaining information from the past to then better equip yourself as a survivalist towards the future, right? So you can already see that your brain can be in the past and the future. Or let's be way more specific than that. Your brain is either in the past, present, or in the future. It can't be in any particular moment twice, right? So as a performer, speaking from my experience, I'm more when I'm doing bad, when I'm performing bad, or when I'm at my all-time high from an anxiety standpoint, I would say that my brain is so focused on past failures in hopes to then try harder to then avoid future failures, right? So you constantly are gaining information from the past, meaning oh, I failed in this outing and it felt like this, right? Your brain is amazing at kind of reminding you those emotions. So any type of emotion in regards to failure is a very bad emotion, right? We do not want to feel that. So then we almost put more internal pressure on ourselves to not feel that for the future. But what happens in that process of understanding that past failure and then seeing and then being in the future to then almost produce more overwhelmingness, more nervousness, more anxiousness, right? All of these not so great emotions when it comes to trying to perform at your best, right? So again, this is me. This is kind of what I've dealt with in regards to this whole, trying to obtain flow state or clearing the mechanism. Now, the process in which you need to kind of be in or put into practice to obtain this flow state or to obtain clearing the mechanism. And this is, again, personal experience and what I've seen from myself. You listening can obviously be different in regards to how you obtain this or put this into practice. For me, it's putting a huge importance on the moment, right? Now, I know this is super easy to say in terms of oh, you just need to be in the moment. You need to be in the moment, live in the moment, and then deal with the task at hand in the moment. Yes, absolutely. It's 100%. But wait, what? How? How do I do that? Right? I'm monitoring futuristic threats from past emotions. So therefore, how do I do that? Well, for me, it's putting more emphasis on your breath, because as a huge believer in the disconnection from the breath work in actual like performance, we don't practice that. So like the only way that for me I can get into a flow state of mind is like when I'm not thinking about any particular moment, even if it's the here and now, or if it's like that's the past, or even if it's like, wow, that's later down the line, it's the 7th inning, like I'm not pitching till next week, right? For me, then it's a process in which I can then solely focus on my breath. Whereas if I'm focusing on my breath in, out, controlling, then therefore all of the threats that are being monitored in the future are then subsided with breath, which is moment, right? So I'm in moment, I'm in the here and now, okay? And I'm not focusing on the past. Now that goes hand in hand with performance on the mound, because you're out there and you're alone on this little frickin' boob and everyone's watching and the game is on you, right? So now it's easy for you because like your human instinct is to just like utilize your brain and think. Oh, I hope this doesn't happen, or I hope that doesn't happen. Like, oh, that could be a very bad thing if that happens, and so on and so forth. Like, absolutely, right? Like I do that all the time. I'm a thinker. I love to think actually, but I know there's a time and a place for that. So then we can also talk about this later. Then you need to fill that brain occupation with something else other than like monitoring of the threats of the past and the future. So back to the breath. Okay. So where I see the disconnect is like, we don't put into practice breath work. We don't put into practice essentially being in the moment, meaning like if you don't practice that breath and that being in the moment in a controlled environment, how the heck do you expect you to do that when all eyes are on you and there's a dude in the box and you got to get him out, right? Like it's going to be a lot harder for you to do that because everyone knows that the game speeds up. Lights are on, right? It matters. There's something on the line. Game naturally speeds up. So if you're not putting into practice like all of these protocols that we can use to then better equip you in the moment to perform, and if you're not utilizing that, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to do that in the game. So what do? For me, I really took off when I put that into a conscious thought process and a constant practice. Like first it's the realization and the identification of like, wow, I'm not doing that, right? Like I'm practicing so much physical, bullpen, throwing program, weights, mobility, throwing program, bullpens, pitch design, all of these things. But like if I'm getting out there on the mound in a game and I'm not failing because like my stuff isn't good, I'm failing because I'm over analyzing things and I'm overloading the brain, and then my physical being can't be at its max capacity because my brain is interfering with all of these things, then like why am I still doing the same thing over and over again? Definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing or doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right? So when I had my terrible season in 13 from a mental standpoint, I had to sit back and go, okay, what is the real problem? Obviously there's physical things that are prohibiting me from being at my best, but more so there's mental things. There's a huge mental barrier. There's a huge mental restriction. You know, we talk about the yips, we talk about all that stuff. Like, yeah, those are at play, but like, how can I then defeat it? I need to be intentional about it. I need to be intentional with the process. So when it comes to clearing the mechanism, that's not something, maybe it is something that just happens because you're not thinking about it. You're just so focused on the performance aspect of it and getting the dude out that can actually just be a byproduct of that happening, right? Like the zone. For me, the zone occurred more so in basketball because the pace was faster. I had less time to think and it was more time about reaction. So like that was kind of just the thing that usually happened in basketball. Baseball is different. Again, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I struggle with like this whole freaking concept of ADD, ADHD, like whatever. Like I get it. Like, okay, I acknowledge that, but that's still who I am and that's me. Now I need to work with what I got. Okay. So that's why I said I spoke on this earlier. And I kind of want to dive back into it a little bit, but not get too far off the beating path. It's occupy your brain with different thought process, right? So like you can't really think about X amount of things at once. You kind of got to segment. So for me, I took my approach of wanting to overanalyze and wanting to think when I was on the mound and just targeted it towards different things, meaning I dove into scouting reports. I dove into pitch sequencing, how to attack guys. What is my best sequence? What is my best tunnel? How can I get this guy out using like the repertoire that I had that day? So now I'm out there, I'm thinking, but I'm not necessarily overanalyzing. I'm just using this pattern of like thought and using it to more so of my advantage rather than having all of these thoughts be negative or potential the potentiality the potential of them being negative, therefore like just kind of constantly allowing my brain to be active but use it to my advantage, right? Different input, I guess, would be the real dynamic there. So yeah, I mean, that's worked for some people where they can like really focus on that and think about that rather than like overloading the brain with negativity. Cause that's the biggest thing that I see, right? Is like, you don't want to overload the brain with negativity. You want to remain in that kind of positive motion. Now, obviously we play a game, especially, pitchers or hitters, especially, I would say, that is based around failure. So it's really easy for that negative kind of thought to creep up into your head, right? But kind of the last thing I guess I would say in regards to clearing the mechanism, I think, again, just to reiterate, like everyone's going to go about it differently, but I will say that I think it is a process in which you need to be intentional about, and you need to identify, okay, what is it that is prohibiting me from being the best position I could be, right? Pitcher, catcher, whatever. And like, you need to then check the ego at the door. And I know that this whole mental game of baseball thing is something that we look at as like almost an embarrassment, an ego check, right? Because if you're an athlete, you're most likely an alpha male, and you don't want to be the guy that struggles with the mental game, right? You don't want to be the mental midget. I get it, dude. I've been there. But at the same time, you also probably don't want to be the guy that can't play this game anymore. You want to be the guy that can play it for a long period of time. So therefore, you need to check the ego at the door and truly identify what it is that's holding you back. And if it's the mental game, and if it's like something that you can actually like put into practice and help your cause, then who are you to not do that, right? Like, don't tell me, coming to me in the email and say you've done everything that you can do and you still don't perform. Like, okay, have you checked every box? The only reason I'm passionate about this stuff and I'll freaking talk on it all day long is because I was there, right? I was there, dude. Like, I cared so much about what other people were thinking that therefore I then tried to outthink when I was on the mound. I was thinking more so to then help myself, but I realized that was only hurting me to constantly put more internal pressure, right? Because there's so much external pressure. So I think, again, to round this out, like we know that we need to be in this clearing the mechanism state of mind. We know we need to turn off all external noises and for more specifically, like the internal voices as well. So a huge piece to all of this is the preparation aspect of it and really understanding the conscious thought and the subconscious thought. Because if you don't prepare for your performance, even if it's not conscious in your head, like the subconscious is a huge piece to performance as well. It's the same thing. You're going into a test and like, you did not study. What is your confidence level going to be at going into that test? Not that you didn't study for. Pretty dang low. Now, can we say the same thing for performance? Now, it's a totally different dynamic, but I believe from personal experience that the subconscious then it takes a toll. It takes a toll because there's that little bit of doubt. I didn't prepare. I didn't know that guy likes fastballs down and in. I didn't work on my curveball this last week, so now it's not freaking showing up. So on and so forth, right? I didn't spend time in my bullpen to work on holds, so now I had to give up 3 stolen bases. Like, it's all the same things, that we need to be intentional of. Like, I'm going to round this out with one simple notion, and it's something that I echo all the time. It's a lot, right? To be a good performer. It's a lot. Like, not even baseball, like anything. It's hard to be a good performer. But if you want to be and you're passionate about being that, then you need to hold yourself accountable and identify what it is that's going to allow you to accomplish that goal of being a good performer. I'm here to tell you, and this is a huge foundation for why I started my essential voice online. I'm here to tell you that the mental aspect of it is important. I can't tell you how many times I've seen dudes in the minor leagues that are just physically head and shoulders above everyone, but they got a 10-cent head, and that's that. And they're done. They're not going to make it. Now, we can obviously make the argument for that 10-cent head benefiting, right? Keep it simple, stupid, absolutely. But I've made this point oftentimes in this podcast in the last 20 minutes, like, identification is the most important thing about all of this, right? Like, if you're okay, if you're in a good place with where you're at mentally and mindset wise, then there's no need. But if you're struggling and you're not in a good place with all this, then there is a need. Okay, so just to recap, clearing the mechanism. It's not something that is going to happen day in and day out, especially if you don't put it into practice, right? Focus on that, control that in a very controlled environment first, and then work your way towards maybe like a bullpen or catch play or whatever. Trust your preparation. Not just trust your preparation, but prepare, right? You need to be able to prepare best you know how to then trust that preparation. That's a huge piece to me. That's why I think I work so freaking hard, because I'm always checking that box, right? It's almost my confidence. That's what promotes confidence. Everyone asks me, like, how do you continue to like be confident even though you suck? And it's like, because I freaking work harder than everyone, you know, like my work ethic allows me to be confident. Okay. Live in the moment. Right? Perform in the moment. Yes, we can use information from the past. Yes, we're going to probably monitor futuristic threats, but for you to perform at your best, I believe that you need to be in the moment and being intentional in that moment, right? Focus on breath. The breath is a huge piece. I would encourage you guys to look at Mind Strong Performance. My guy Harvey Martin does a fantastic job on his Instagram page. He's got a lot of stuff on breath and putting that into practice and what that looks like. Trust me, I'm a guy that struggles with a lot of thoughts going into my mind. And hey, again, identification, right? So hopefully you guys got something from that. If you want to reach out, contact robbyrow@gmail.com. If you want to book a consult, we can dive deeper into this concept, and I can give you some things that you can practice as far as like protocols. But that's all I got for you, right? This is great. Clear the mechanism. I think not a lot of people talk about the actual art of it and how to obtain it. So reach out if you ever want me to do a podcast on something. I need ideas. I only have a full piece of paper. No, it's only half a piece of paper left of what I need to record. And I love recording. I love talking. I love, like I said, if you want to go to YouTube and look at my ugly mug, go ahead and do that. Quick shout out, not a sponsor, Rake Baseball Company. I'm wearing their new shirt, Good Vibes Only, discount ROBBY, Rake Baseball Company. They're freaking swag. Super comfy too. Love that. Okay, clear the mechanism, be intentional. Don't let your mind be the reason that you're not performing, right? It's easier said than done, obviously. I know that. Okay. Thank you, guys. Love you. Be sure to follow me on all the platforms. Producing a ton of good content on YouTube right now. Be sure to hit that old subscribe button for future stuff. New ebook out. Sponsor Oat Specialties. Rake Baseball Company shout out. This is a shirt. And I guess I'll keep you guys updated on Instagram what this whole Corona protocol thing is. God bless. Much love. Until next time, your boy's out. Enjoy the rest of your day. See ya.
Bye.